Wish fulfilled, dear viewers. Tonight, on Roll of a Tangent, Robert Gibson, Anthony Simeon, XJ, and I, your humble servant, Nikita Zur, shall plunge into a fascinating tale of fright and excitement. Written in 1902, which is like 100 and something years ago, 123 years ago. Holy moly, my friends. The Monkey's Paw by W. W. Jacobs is a short story that started it all. Does your movie have a horrific trinket that grants wishes in a malicious way? You owe this to this tale. As for the story itself, I won't go into all of the information gleaming therein. That's what we're here to discuss, but here's a small summary. Sergeant Major Morris comes to the house of the White family, filling their home with exciting tales of his escapades in India. A sinister tone takes over as Morris describes a particularly strange item in his possession, a mummified hand of a simian that seems to grant wishes. Yet its power is filled with dangers, for it twists that which you desire, making one pay a heavy price when using the monkey's paw. A very short story, but a story that I very much enjoyed reading. I will divulge more into what I thought about it and what I think of the genre itself. But first, I'd like to hear from Anthony. Anthony, how did you feel about today's story, and what are your thoughts on it?
You're muted, Anthony.
Thank you. That would help. Or maybe not, depending on how good my words are right now. I don't know.
My
Maybe
wish
better
was
be stay
granted.
muted.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, this was a revisit of a classic tale that I had read before. I think that, we all know the classic reinterpretation, perchance, that The Simpsons did on one of their pre-House of Horror episodes. I don't know if you guys are fans of The Simpsons, but there was a famous retelling of it in The Simpsons in classic Simpsons style. But, this concept of wishing on something or making a wish that has deleterious consequences that you cannot expect or predict is something that I'm sure goes back millennia, as we were talking about right before we started recording. How far back does this concept go of getting wishes and it being getting more than what you bargained for, or regretting your wishes in the end? Ultimately, it's perhaps a cautionary tale that this tale put forth very skillfully over 100 years ago and brought it into the Western canon of literature, if such a thing exists. So yeah, I think it was, it had been a long time since I'd read it, and I think that if one of the intentions of this show is to encourage people to kind of go back and go and read one of these stories or any of these stories that are seminal to a genre or to a theme or a concept or a trope, to put it another way. I think that I feel good about us going back out and bringing stories like this to the world that maybe something about, but did you ever actually read the story? And I'd read it once before, ages ago, probably when I was, much younger. But yeah, so it was a great, tasty little treat, a little snack of a story that is just, again, perfectly kind of tuned and just really brings home that message of be careful what you wish for. So I'm glad you suggested this, that we read this, and it's like revisiting an old friend. But anyone who hasn't read it, any of you youngsters out there, maybe, or even some of you folks of a certain age, maybe you just haven't gotten around to reading it. Right. Maybe you youngsters or oldsters or eldersters, however you want to put it.
Eldersters?
Elders.
I like it.
Go out and read this. Do
Inventing new
yourselves a
English
favor.
words.
Yeah, right. Coining them every week. I mean, I'm trademark pending.
Oxford University, here we come.
Yeah, but yeah. So again, great revisit to a classic story. Do yourselves a favor if you haven't read it and read it. And again, I'm glad we kind of have this show for us to spur ourselves to go back and read some classic tales and revisit the origins of all these tropes that we take for granted in our modern glut of entertainment. So who's next? XJ, Robert, whoever wants to go.
Nicely put. Yeah, but let's hear from Robert.
Excuse me.
No problem.
Yeah, it's smoothly written and with the sort of skill that makes you forget that there is any skill involved. Just the writer makes it look easy, and one could say, if one were going to argue with the ideas in it, one would say it's one of those examples where the skill of the writer hides logical flaws in the plot. I don't think there are any real flaws in the plot, but I do think in a way it could be classed as an idiot plot. That is to say, a story that can only happen because of extreme foolishness on the part of the characters, which is fair enough because human beings are like that, especially when there's any chance of getting something for nothing.
I actually got a feeling that the author showed us that the protagonists are not the brightest because, Mr. White is failing at chess against a child. So it kind of began us with the idea that this person who has gotten the monkey's paw is not the brightest.
But also Sergeant Morris kind of half believes in it, but he doesn't believe in it enough to have got rid of the thing.
Yeah.
And yet he believes in it enough to be scared of it and to warn the other people in a not very psychologically clever way to leave the thing alone. It's bound, his attitude is bound to fail. And
Yeah, he makes it more enticing for sure.
yeah, but none of this is a
He does.
criticism of the story. It's something that's something that the story brings out very well. After all, the inconsistent beliefs of the protagonist are the basis of much more famous stories, particularly Dr. Faustus and Goethe's version, where the doctor believes in the supernatural enough to believe in the devil, but not enough to believe that he's bound to come off worst. So, what can you say? Anyway, a great story.
Yeah, and this is where sort of the fact that these stories are so old sometimes that when we read these stories that are so ancient comparatively compared to the media that you or I or some of us may consume on a daily basis through whatever medium, is that I thought that this story, the fact that the man that came to them and he brought it up, I thought it was so he could unload it onto them and get rid of it. Like he's inflicting it purposely upon these poor people. And I know that's from some other variant of this trope, from some other story or show or something that I've seen, where it's like, or like a movie where it's like, I have to pass this cursed object on to you because otherwise I can't get rid of it. So I have to give it to you. You have to freely accept it.
Chain letters,
but that never comes into this. Never comes into this story. So what's that, XJ?
I was just saying chain letters. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, something like that. Or like, any movie, a horror movie where it's like, some cursed object has to be passed on.
Yeah, wasn't there like some sort
intentionally
of
or
a tape
otherwise.
or something in the ring, or I can't remember.
Yeah, tape in the ring or like, some sort of curse or a haunting, so I'm like, okay, does he have to pass this on? But that never materializes. But he sort of, yeah, it's like he gives them Pandora's box and says, don't open it. Basically it's like, oh, this kid grants wishes, but oh, please don't do it. It's just,
No!
it's like, did he have a grudge against them or what? Like, yeah, when you tell someone not to do something, they're going to do it. I don't know. But anyway, so what you were all saying was just kind of, brought that to mind was like, how many times has this been done in certain ways where it's like, oh, well, in this variant, he had to give it away to them. He had to be enticing to them and to gift it to them so he could get out of the curse, So anyway, but
I mean, to me, it's just like the fallacy of British politeness. The guy tried to burn it, And then they were like, no, don't burn it. And he's like, well, I don't want to insist. So I won't, but
Right.
you really should.
They're polite to a fault, right? They'll let
Yeah.
people have cursed monkey paws, right?
Yeah.
British politeness.
British politeness. That's my theory.
Robert doesn't look amused. We're
No,
stereotyping.
he never does.
You never know. Not the stereotype, the British politeness.
Yeah, I like the little pull on the cheeks. That's pretty good. Actually, what did you think of the story?
XJ, thoughts?
Yeah. So I I read this a long time ago when I was a lot younger, and I remember it being like very impactful for me because the twist at the end was was really quite not what I was expecting for some reason. I think when I read I think the first time I read this was a stage play. I read it as a stage play. It wasn't it wasn't like a short story. It was a stage play. It was so you had like Act 1 and then a bunch of stuff, and then the people were being very theatrical and all of that. And it like the punchline at the end was pretty impactful, very powerful. And then rereading this like many years later, it is still impactful. Not quite in the same way. I would say like now when I know what the monkey's paw is about, I could better appreciate the creepiness factor even more. And I feel like the writer has done a pretty good job of making like suspense, and towards the end it was now that when I was reading it when I was a lot younger, I didn't really think much about family and stuff like that, right? And so it was like, okay, it's a very horrific curse that's turned on his head and all of that. But now that I'm a little bit older, and then I start thinking about a little bit more about the people around me and less selfish, if you could say that, I'm thinking like the circumstances around it is pretty tragic. They asked for £200, they got it. I don't know if I don't know. I mean, I'm not a parent myself, but I can't imagine it's a very good feeling to have £200 at the cost of your only kid that has survived to adulthood, right? And to also have the kid be lost in such a gruesome manner, to the point where you don't even recognize it. I think that's like some seriously heavy stuff there. And then to have the kid come back, well, I mean, it's implied that the kid came back, right, because of the third and final wish. That's all sorts of horrible, I think. Yeah. So it remains a very. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because, again, I think that because I was sitting there thinking as I was reading it, like, this whatever power is behind this monkey's paw, whatever mystical power this is, it fulfills it in like a mundane way, like a very direct, logical way. How would this family see? The family is expecting $200 to fall out of the sky and just land in their laps, but it actually incorporates it into their reality. How would these people get 200 pounds? An accident that, spoiler alert from here on out, listeners, if you want to read it, stop listening, but that's your warning. But, oh, your son dies in a horrible accident at the factory. Here's $200 in compensation. So it's like, it's this mystical power that can fulfill these desires, but it does it in this coldly, cruelly rational way that makes sense in the context of your life. You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, I wish I was weighed 80 pounds less and like something chops 80 pounds of skin off of me. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's weird. It's
Yeah,
really
I guess you don't need
crazy
those
and
legs anymore, Anthony.
yeah,
Chop, chop.
right, right. I don't know if my legs weigh 80 pounds. I hope not, but maybe they do. But yeah,
I
it's
have no
like this.
idea. Like they, like I'm kilograms kind of guy. I have no idea
There you go. Yeah,
how much 80 pounds.
pounds and pounds, right?
So 40
But yeah,
pounds
so
would
I don't know. It was
be around 20 kilograms. Around
okay.
20.
Okay.
Around 20.
I'm
Yeah,
a
so
barbarian.
40 kilo legs would be pretty crazy.
Okay.
Uh,
But yeah, anyway, so I just thought like that struck me as I was reading. I was like, oh wow, it's phenomenal cosmic power, but it fulfills it in this gruesome, literal like way that makes sense in your life. Because these people have no other prospects. It seems like to get 200 pounds any other way that makes sense to reality. So while they were expecting it naively to drop out of the sky and just miraculously show up with no consequences, which is
I thought it
there's
was
a
gonna be
parable in there.
I thought the first wish was gonna be a little bit more tongue in cheek, and it was
Hmm.
more gonna be like, oh, he gains insatiable hunger and just becomes really fat. But I like that the story just went into complete like, no, 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 we kill his
Right.
son with the first wish, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I like the
Right.
I like
Good.
the bravery of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So 0 to 60 in that's
You
3
know,
seconds.
like the most it, the wha- it's like rereading this story, right? It's especially powerful because for me because like there was one point where the guy actually said, "Well, I've got everything I want. There's nothing I need to wish for," which makes the whole affair that happened after even more tragic, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know about like one of the really cool things that this short story did was within the first paragraph you kind of got a sense of who the characters are. Like the Mr. White is a bit of a risk taker, and Nikki called him stupid.
I
kind of
mean,
kind of it lays the foundation very well for like what kind of characters they are and that sort of stuff. And I was
yeah.
thinking to myself like, okay, yeah, maybe Mr. White is a little bit optimistic, shall we say? But at the same time, like if a friend of mine came to my house and told me about the monkey's paw, and I'm a generally satisfied kind of guy, no wish in the world, no care in the world, maybe a little bit naive, I would be like, okay, I'll take this as a joke and make a joke wish too. And then, like, the subsequent stuff that kind of happened after that was just like, damn, that's rough.
Yeah, but it's like then are we getting too meta about it? You know, we're like, oh, if it was me, I would have just tested it out with something like, I wish I had a ham sandwich. You know,
The thing is the very first wish was actually the lady of the house saying she wish she has 4 arms.
That would have been interesting.
And then Morris was
Right.
like, "Oh, for God's sake! If you're gonna make a wish, if you must, please make it a more mundane one." And that's why they came with the 200 pounds, right? Because, oh, yeah, 4 arms. Damn, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
What do
would
you
have
think would
been.
have happened if they did wish for her to have 4 arms?
Hmm.
Oh, would have turned Lovecraftian. Oh man,
Oh, absolutely.
you know we love that here.
I think she would also suffer some sort of a accident where like her arms got cut in two.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so technically you have 4, right? There are 4 pieces. Yeah.
There's a way around all this, and that's to say to yourself, all right, I've been offered 3 wishes. I'll use the first one to stipulate that there will be no catch in the last 2. And then You've got two
Right.
wishes, and you know they'll turn out right.
See, again, yeah, and that's just like, a century or more of like people messing with wishes, right? Like, okay, I need to perfectly word this. So, and as a player of Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm sure maybe, some of you have also got, there's a wish spell in Dungeons and Dragons. So you're like, okay, it's going to be interpreted super literally. So I have to like come up and think about all the caveats that are going to make sure that there's no deleterious effect or that this doesn't get interpreted in the way I don't want to, right?
This
Uh,
this reminds me of something. So in my universe, in Alcania, where I run my D&D, there was a situation where a player character wished on a genie, and the emperor of jinns. Because in my world, not every jinn can grant you wishes. You have to be a very powerful jinn in order to do that. And so this jinn was imprisoned by the dwarvish people, and he straight up told the character, like, set me free. I'll give you what you want, or be careful what you wish for, because I'll twist your words. And he was like trying to think of a way of like, okay, what do I do? And this character beforehand, he was a necromancer, an individual who has done a lot of terrible deeds, but he was slowly turning it around. And that makes it kind of especially tragic, because what he said was, I wish you to make me a better man. And what the wish did was place him into a completely different person, erase him from existence, and make him like a child of 10, being cared for by nice parents and so on and so forth. So he literally got what he wanted. He literally
roll up a new
became a better
character.
man. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, you're a better
Roll a
man
new
now. Roll
character.
up a new character.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so poetic and so sad, right? Like this guy who's
That's
like,
great.
the things I've done in this life, like I've done them so wrongly. Maybe you can make me a better.
See,
And I
now
was
what
like,
I would
okay,
have done,
yeah.
I would have had what I would have done as it from one GM to another. I would have
Oh
had
shit.
a bunch of body snatchers come in, chop him up for Frankenstein parts, and have him be made into a flesh golem that was stronger and
Uh, yeah,
that's
I'm
great. I love
stronger.
it.
I am smarter, and I am better now.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All this is kind of reminding me of AI. We're already having to do it with our prompts in the most careful manner, because what it spits back out to us can be very frustrating.
Yeah. It's a
At least it's still
digital monkey.
yeah, at least it's only
Digital
frustrating.
monkey's paw. Yeah, digital monkey's paw, right? That's what the AI is right now.
Well, anyway, that's my take. Very good story. I do wish that there are some parts in it that I think I feel it would be great to expand upon, but it might just be me. I don't know if it actually actively helps the story become better though. Yeah, and that is
What would you expand on?
well, I
Yeah.
mean like that. So like what I would really love to see would be like some inner monologue on like just how the Mr. and Mrs. White felt when his wish got granted, like that whole event, because up until that point everything was quite nice. But once the tragedy hits, right, the story moved really fast. If I'm making sense, like there's like a lot of ellipses where we just kind of jump from one to the other state of mind, and we're left to kind of interpret it right up to the very end, actually, because the lady wished for her son to come back, and then the guy breathed a final wish, and everything got resolved, and we never got to see what actually turned up at the door, that kind of stuff, and it's left to imagination, which is
Yep. You have to read The Thing on the Doorstep by H.P. Lovecraft, which kind of, in a way, takes up where
Really?
W. Jacobs leaves off.
Yeah, I mean, that is the last bit where the thing that actually turned up at the doorstep. I don't think it's necessary to expand on that, but the emotional state of the two characters would have been a nice expansion, I feel. But again, given it, that would just be me. I don't know if it actually actively improves the story though, because one thing is I think this was also a stage play, and if it's for a stage play, there should be some room for the actors to have their own interpretation, kind of thing. Yeah,
Mm.
that's what I would have liked to see more, but I don't know if it actually helps make the story better though.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it the way it was. I like the mystery of it. I think whatever you could come up with in your head is a lot more scarier than what you could have written. Just the whole idea of like something banging on the door, like you've wished for your son to return. What is it about? What is it going to be? It is a bit cheap not to show anything, right?
Yeah. There's an old ballad, an old border ballad called "The Wife of Usher's Well," which it's very, very spooky ballad. An old woman's three sons are lost at sea, and she makes a terrible wish that she should see them again, and they do come again, but and they're all right, but they can't stay. And then they say goodbye, and that's the last goodbye. It's a really, really spooky poem, but much more, if I can use the word, cheerful than this story.
I mean, the idea of getting a last goodbye from the people you lost, like I would love to, say my final goodbyes to my grandfather that I never got to see before he died, for example, right? So I think that is like if the monkey spot did something like that, I think it would be like nice instead of evil, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking what was gonna happen when she opens the door was to have somebody come in and they look exactly like their son and they're just like lost and they're just asking for directions and they let them in and it's just like this horrific like mental torture of meeting this person that looks exactly like your son but it's just not them.
Mm. Yeah. Or I mean, it was just literally an animated corpse, like a zombie.
Yeah,
Like
I mean it could have been that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so it's like again, I don't know what was it. Would that have been considered too gauche in the time that it was published? So he couldn't describe a drippy, dead, 10-day-old corpse, like
Yeah,
or he just chose not to because again, the power of your own imagination conjures something more terrifying to
Yeah.
yourself. So it's or that maybe it just would have been too forbidden in that time to describe something so horrific. You would have ladies fainting in their parlors as they read your story in the magazine. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think I wouldn't change a thing. It's. I can see where you're coming from, XJ, but yeah, I feel like it's
I wasn't
such a nice
talking.
little.
I wasn't talking about the wish being reviewed though. I was talking
Oh, okay,
about their emotional state, because all of that was kind of like just like
gotcha.
it
Okay.
was just like a very external description. We're not really invited into
Okay.
the inner worlds of those Mr. and Mrs. White and how they're feeling.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
last bit, I think I don't know that it's necessary to show at all. I was just I just brought it up as like an
Yeah, okay.
example of the ellipse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think the fact that there's so many variations of this story that I think other people have also wanted more of this trope, So I think that your impulse to have more something emotional insight into people's emotions as they're experiencing it, etc. I think that that's why it's been redone. Another reason why, because it's like, oh, you can do a lot with this concept and this trope.
There's a variation on this subgenre where what Anthony's just said could be followed up much more, and what it has been, and that is, instead of a wish being allowed to make any wish, if there's a particular aspect that's being passed on, in other words, very long life or immortality, as in Melmoth the Wanderer, who's made a pact that he's going to live 150 years if he can persuade someone, but then he realizes what he's done, because he's going to be damned at the end of the 150 years. So he tries to get somebody to change places with him, and the whole book is about how he fails to do that. Or there's The Seed of Evil by Barrington Bailey, which is science fiction, which I think we ought to do sometime on this podcast. An alien has got he's apparently immortal, and he refuses to reveal the secret as to how he is immortal. And there are some people who refuse to accept this, and in the end they trap him and dissect him and get the seed out of him, the seed of immortality. And it turns out that that's what he'd wanted them to do all along, because he wanted to be robbed of it so that somebody else would suffer the terrible fate of living forever. So anyway, it's an idea rather than wishing.
Interesting. Yeah.
But it's a curse.
Yeah.
Well, I think I think that for me the story was just in terms of impact was as impactful as when I first read it, just like in different ways. Because when I first read it, it was like it was a bit of more of a carnival evil kind of thing. Like reading, I don't know, Pet Sematary from Stephen King, that kind of horror story. But now rereading it now though is a bit, there is the supernatural to it, but also it's just like a real tragedy is the way I would put it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a morality tale in a way, but it doesn't beat you over the head with the moral. It's pretty subtle in that way.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. Well, that's my take.
Do you think you could use the monkey's paw and not get any consequences if you have a rabbit's foot? Will that cancel each other out?
I don't know. Monkey's paw and rabbit's foot, eh?
Yeah. Do you not know? Do you not know the belief around the rabbit's foot? Actually.
No, I do. I was just thinking like, I don't know. Feels a little bit like feels a little bit like what a D&D power gamer would think of.
Well,
Plus one luck
that's
to
what you
minus
got
one
here.
luck offset minus
Yeah,
one
yeah,
luck.
exactly. 0 luck.
Yeah. All right. Well, how would you guys improve the story if that is even a thought at all?
I think my score will reveal, but I don't think there's anything I would do.
Well, then what's the score?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Wow.
Same here.
I don't think I could write it better. I don't think many people could. The patience and the restraint to make it exactly how it is what makes it that impactful for me. Yeah. So 10 out of 10, no questions asked. I don't think you like. Is it my favorite story of all time? No, but does it do everything that it should do? Oh yeah, for sure.
What
For
about
what
you,
it is,
Anthony?
it's
Oh, sorry. Please continue.
for what it is, it's 10 out of 10. That's all I want
Okay.
to say.
Anthony, what's your score?
Yeah, I mean, I would give it for execution. I mean, and just in terms of just a pure storytelling exercise, I mean, I would say 9 out of 10 for me. It's not the most mind-blowing story ever, but just in terms of from a writer's perspective, I think it's excellent, and I wouldn't do anything to mess with it either. And from a reader's perspective, it's just such a classic tale of just be careful what you wish for, and a very light touch morality tale, and being, learning to appreciate your life. Because I had forgotten that line that he said in the beginning, towards the beginning, the old man said, what would I wish for? I have everything I need, So that was it. That was the lesson. Like, that was the warning sign that, like, you're happy. You don't need to wish for anything else, because it's going to, wishing for things only leads you in a world without monkey's paws that have mystical powers. Wishing for things generally just leads you down a path of despair in the real world, just because you're sitting here wasting your time wishing instead of acting to try to move yourself towards something you want. So, but again, it doesn't browbeat you about the head and shoulders with, oh, this is a lesson. It's a creepy little, tight little story. You can read it in, no time, and you can contemplate it and have a good discussion about it. So yeah, I would say 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, that would be my score as well. 9 out of 10. Yeah, I did feel like the second read around, I did feel like I would have liked to see more, just like understand a little bit more what the what Mr. and Mrs. White might be going through towards the end, when they have made their wish. Not in a voyeuristic sense, but just like get a sense of what is it that what kind of weight that sort of situation would have on anyone, that kind of stuff. Yeah, but yeah.
I see what you mean.
All right. Well, so I guess, does anyone else have anything to say?
Nope.
Because it feels as if we have come to a natural conclusion on the discussion.
Yeah, read it. Read the story. Go out. Maybe we could put the link in the description so that the people can
For sure.
have a look at it. It is 100 years old, so it's free.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much all for your patience and your attention. And if you like the podcast, please like and subscribe and all of that.
Thank you.
Until the next time, take care. Goodbye.